All right, what's up, everybody? As you can see, we're going to get started here. Very excited to be bringing in one of our very good friends, Mr. Phil Treadwell. And as we told you, last couple of lives that Jason and I have done, we've got a lot of exciting things coming out. And today is episode number 1 of the Shred Influencer Spotlight. And like I mentioned just a second ago, it's our good friend and partner actually in the industry, Syndicate. But Phil made a very cool change recently that we're going to be talking about here in a second. But I want to intro Phil because, as many of you know, I had Phil on my show a very long time ago. He's been an absolute mentor to me. He's got an incredible podcast, a mortgage marketing expert. Correct, Phil? If I'm correct, we're getting correct. But this guy, he's been in the industry a long time. He understands not only what's important to originators, but what they need within their business to really help them thrive and grow within the modern markets, what today brings. So we're really excited to be spotlighting. I kind of sound when we talk about spotlight, it's almost like, yay, spotlight is a kid. So it's like a kid in a candy store when it's Phil, more like a bull in a china shop when we're talking to Phil. But either way, we're
especially when we're ordering food.
But Phil, thanks for joining us today, brother. We appreciate you.
Man, thanks for having me. I don't know how to respond. There was like some really good compliments mixed with some backhanded passive-aggressive comments. So this is a great way to get started. This is awesome.
Well, that's how we do it, man. That's how we roll, dude. We got to have fun with this just because this industry in general is just a little too stiff, and we need to bring some light back to it. So that's why we're spotlighting you, my friend. So we're excited to be hanging out, excited to have you here. But anyway, with that being said, excited to get into it with you. There's a lot of big things that I know you have on your radar, some places you're going to be at that we're going to be as well. So we definitely look forward to, like I said, kind of discussing some of those things here very, very soon. So let's jump right into it. I know one big thing that you have coming up, Phil, is Mastermind. Mastermind is right around the corner, right?
It absolutely is. It's next week in Las Vegas at the Palms, where it is pretty much every year, but it's a really cool event this year. I think Darren Hardy's one of the headliners. He's somebody that we've looked at trying to have on our podcast. He's written a couple of amazing books. Mastermind is one of the biggest events in the mortgage industry every year. And so super excited about, seeing folks that I only see a couple of times a year, getting to network with folks that I've not met before. All of us have some cool events and things that we're doing there. And so I'm excited to finish it out this week and get on the road and head to Vegas.
And actually, before we even Vegas is going to be exciting. I know we're going to be talking more about that, but you recently even made a bigger change that we're probably even more excited for. I know Jason, he's sporting a little shirt or his sweater for sure, but you recently made a change within your own career, still in the mortgage industry, of course, but went to Mason-McDuffie. So congratulations with that. Tell us why you're excited for that, the future of that.
Yeah, man, I appreciate it. Thank you very much. I recently made a move to Mason-McDuffie Mortgage, the vice president of development and a regional manager. And I'm super excited about what we've got going on at Mason-McDuffie right now. Mason has a long, rich history in mortgage and real estate. The brand's been around since 1887, both in the real estate side and then, later on transition into the mortgage side as well. And there's a rich history and tradition about doing great business and taking care of not only buyers, but borrowers and consumers in general. And so right now, Mason-McDuffie is poised to really grow in this modern industry that we all like to talk about, that really have an appetite for not only growth, but about understanding what the modern borrower, what the modern loan officer is really looking for, not only in purchasing homes and finding a place to work, but the way that we all interact with one another and the way we all cultivate attention and create business and create that community and be social with one another as a whole. And so we've got a lot of cool things that are coming down the pipe in the next few months and super excited to get over here and start getting settled and still trying to get my feet underneath me a little bit. It's obviously big anytime you make a move from one company to another, but everyone has been awesome and I'm super excited about things to come.
Nice. And obviously, for those that don't know, Mason-McDuffie, when I talk about being in the mortgage business for the last decade, being executive, it was at Mason-McDuffie Mortgage. It's a family business for me, so very excited to have my good friend Phil join that family. Phil, for those that, for lenders and loan officers in general, you and I have had this conversation a whole bunch of times. It's one of the reasons why we wanted you to be episode number 1, is because when you and I met last year, we definitely think a lot alike. We look at the industry the same, just as Josh does as well. What do you think loan officers and lenders really should be focused on in 2019, and not just for this year, but for, I'd say, the next 24 months?
Yeah, I think they need to pay attention to what the consumer that's happening. 48% of all new mortgages right now are millennials that are 37, 38 years old and younger. And you have to understand who that group of people is. They were either at home or just out of the house whenever the crash happened in 06, 07, 08. So they're very leery of that. But they also really like to communicate, do business, and consume information through social media, through mobile technology, through those types of things. And so the modern mortgage professional not only has to understand how to gather, create, garner, whatever you want to call it, the attention of that modern consumer, but they also have to position themselves to be a mortgage advisor so that you can help that group of people through this transaction, through this process. I just did a podcast on my podcast with Dale Vermillion, and he put it very, very eloquently in saying that millennials crave and want community almost like no other generation before. They want to be able to be a part of a community. They want to socialize and interact in ways that so many other generations really haven't. And with social media, with the internet, there's so many options and possibilities for them to do that. So on the mortgage and real estate side of things, you have to create an environment and a community that they want to tie into. But you also have to realize that they're probably gun shy. They've waited a little longer to be first-time home buyers than a lot of other generations. And they want a mortgage professional to walk through that transaction with them, to make them feel comfortable about what's happening, to educate them. But again, they want to do it in a mobile and technology-friendly way. And so the originator and the managers and the companies that can understand who their buyers are over the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years, create the right kind of attention and build a company and a model around one that they can get to have that community, they get to have that education and comfort during the home buying process, and give them the type of technology that they want as a consumer. I think those are the people that are really going to succeed in the coming years.
Yeah, I completely agree. It's the game has changed. And I think one thing, and I think, Phil, you would agree with this, is that I think the one thing that everyone needs to understand is that we cannot take the classic sit back and wait approach that we seem to do. And not only that, I mean, it's logical, and sometimes even that's what you want to do. But I think what has happened in our industry, we've taken like a sit back and wait for years approach to make any type of changes. And I think what's important now is that lenders and loan officers, but lenders especially, you guys cannot sit there on the sidelines and wait to see how things shape out. You got to look at other industries and learn from them. And you just can't look at other mortgage companies. And that's the one thing that drove me nuts, and still to this day drives me nuts, is the mentality of just waiting and just assume and thinking that our industry is different from others when it comes to consumer attention.
Absolutely. And I think our good friend Chelsea Pite says it very eloquently. You've got to be where other people aren't. That's really where the niche is trying to find new ways of doing things. But it doesn't have to be something that's inauthentic to who you are. I said this whenever I was on Josh's show when we first met, is differentiation is about finding something that's unique to you, something you're comfortable with, something you're good at, and really doubling down on that. And that in and of itself creates an opportunity for you to differentiate yourself, be a first-class you, and focus on something that you can do the best that a lot of people aren't doing in that way. And so that's really what people need to focus on, is finding something they enjoy doing, finding something they can double down on, and doing it better than everybody else.
So let's get tactical, because this is what Jason and I are really all about, and that's what Shred is all about, is actually talking. So we're talking about, okay, this is how you do it. Like, with what you're saying here, what can they actually be doing in this market? What would you say, Phil? Like, if there's something like, yes, these are all good things, but specifically, what are some of the things they should be doing?
I mean, there's a long list, and I think it's different for every kind of person, depending on what their personality and the type of business that they're trying to create. I'll give some tactical examples, but before I do, I want to make sure people realize you have to figure out who your target market is. Then you need to decide what kind of message you want to create and what you want to communicate to that target market before you ever figure out what type of marketing medium you need to go through. And so I think that's a little small exercise that people can do first. And then you can decide, hey, is social media the best outlet? If that is, I highly recommend anyone that's spending a lot of time in social media is doing it in an authentic way. You know, we talk a lot, all three of us, and you know, a lot of people in our sphere of influence have the conversation about not contributing to the white noise of the industry, not using social media as advertising or marketing just for marketing's sake, but use it as an opportunity to get to know other people within the industry, to get to know other referral partners, and let them get to know you in a very uninvasive way that you can put out who you are. You know, as people, we're a little bit of voyeurs. We like to see what's going on in people's lives. We like to know that people are struggling the same way we are. And I think that that's what can draw people to you, is that authenticity. And so whenever people are playing in the social media side of things, yes, you want to put your message out there, but you need to spend more time about who you are and what you're about than you are just your business and that message. I think there's a huge opportunity in voice when it comes to, you know, Amazon and Alexa and other voice activated devices. I think that there's an opportunity to create content that you can get out there to the public and brand yourself as a local expert. Create a flash briefing about new restaurants or entertainment or things that are happening in the community. Give people a reason to listen to you. Give people a reason to want to consume your content. And you can also put your brand in there as a real estate professional, as a mortgage professional. And I think that there's a huge opportunity in that. If you'll cultivate the information that's out there and deliver it to people in a way that gives them a reason to want to pay attention, you can really capture a lot of folks' attention. I don't think even newsletters, I think there's an opportunity to do great newsletters. There's an opportunity to do great mailers if you're putting the right thing in there. You know, we're bombarded by so much information. If we can spend the time and cultivate that and create it in a way that's bite-sized for people to consume, there's a huge opportunity to capture that attention and let them know about you and your brand, because time is a commodity that none of us can get back. There's a very finite amount of it, and that's really how people can add value, is think about, again, who your target market is, what the message is that you're trying to create, and then give them a reason to pay attention to you so that you can insert that message as you're talking.
Dude, I love this. So I'm glad you brought this up, Phil, because I honestly, there's so much talk of, you know, trying to do this. And I think what's really important for people, especially when it comes to social media, what you talked about is you really have to decide what's best for you and your business, not everybody. And the fact that you even brought up, like, everybody's talking about social media, Facebook marketing, Instagram marketing, blah, blah, like social media. And we love it. Like, don't get us wrong. That's where Jason and I are putting, I mean, clearly we do a lot on here, but if that's not your play, like if that is absolutely where you're like, nope, I do not want to be here, you might be a little bit crazy. You should be, but you don't have to be. Like, you absolutely want to, like, you don't have to be there. Now, are you going to probably grow your brand as fast as you would like? No, definitely not. And there's going to be a small niche amount of people that probably don't use social media. They don't use Facebook, which, I mean, that's a whole other argument, to be honest, Jason and Phil, which will they eventually get tuned out? Maybe, probably, but still in the here and now, there's still a demographic. There's still people who read the newspaper. Like, the newspapers still get printed. Like, so right. there still is that demographic out there. So
they got to wrap the fish in something.
Exactly. Right? I guess you got to wrap fish So those who are just joining us live, make sure you comment #shred. If you're joining us on the replay, make sure you comment #hustle. And then kind of a new one, because this is our influencer spotlight. I want you to be thinking, if you guys have somebody who you want, who's an influencer in your life, who has just been awesome, let us know. We'd love to spotlight them, people within the industry. So thanks so much for everybody joining us right now. And if you're just joining us, we've got the incredible Phil Treadwell hanging out with us, sharing some awesome tips. So let's go back to this, Jason, that we're really talking with Phil. You mentioned brand, and this is something that keeps coming up, that just keeps coming up and coming up and coming up. When it comes to building a brand, when it comes to branding, what should loan officers, because that's kind of your forte right now, Phil, especially when it comes to, and let's bring Mason-McDuffie into it. I didn't know, when it comes to building a brand, that's something that Mason-McDuffie is helping people with, is actually helping them build their brand. It's not all about branding the company, but personally branding those loan officers.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that there's lots of ways that you can do that. I also think that there's a couple of interpretations of that. A lot of times when we talk about personal branding, people will say, okay, I need to create a completely separate brand. It needs to be, XYZ lender or XYZ loan officer. And I think that that's one way to do it. A lot of what I talk about when I'm talking about personal branding is branding yourself, creating awareness to who you are, whether that's content, whether that's social media. There's lots of brands that are attached to each one of us. The three of us have multiple brands and multiple things that we're a part of. So whenever I mention building a personal brand, I want people to go out and create content that creates awareness about who they are, about what they're about their interests, about their skills, about their mindset. And then when you dig into who someone is, you're going to find a lot about the companies that they're associated with and what those companies are about, and the other networks that people are. And so when we're talking about personal branding, for me, I'm talking about putting yourself out there, being authentic, talking about things that you're comfortable about talking about, bringing awareness to topics that are important to you. And it doesn't even have to be business related. If you're, big into a certain nonprofit, if you're big into a passion, whether it's, skiing in the mountains or boating on or whatever it is, find something and use that to identify and attach to the brand that is you, and then tap into that culture, befriend those people, let them know what you do for a living. And that's the best way to create business, is to be authentic. I've said it 1,000 times. People do business with people they like. This business will always be a relationship business. All these tools that we talk about, from social media to happy hour events and Alexa flash briefings and all these other things, they're all about creating attention so that you have an opportunity to go in and create a relationship, because that's really what it's all about. We're in one of the coolest times ever to create attention and to build relationships, almost like no other time out there in history. We can leverage ourselves infinite number of ways to be out there in front of the eyes that we just didn't have an opportunity to do before.
I totally agree. And honestly, so this is a really cool, this goes right along with what you're saying, Phil, is Bill Steven. Thanks for joining us live, by the way, Bill. But he comments, #do you. You have to really be you when it comes to building a brand, whatever that is. It sounds so freaking cliche. And literally, Jason, we've I don't know how many times we've talked about this in the last couple of days. Like, it's crazy. Yeah. Like, I feel like a broken record, but it's 100% true. Like, if you are not, and I mentioned this on a podcast, we were on a podcast just a little while ago, for another coaching company, and we were talking about branding in particular and building a brand. But this authenticity, Phil, that you mentioned, the authentic, we heard that word a lot too. And why I love live, why I love these raw videos, is because there's no way to fake it. Like, you can only fake it for so long on a live video. Like, when you're doing a Steven Spielberg production, like actors, and you hear that a lot about actors, they're one way on stage or on film, and then you actually meet them in person and they're like a jerk. And you're like, what the freak? Like, these guys suck. When you're doing live video, like, you can't fake that. Yeah. So, like, because people will meet me and they're like, oh, you pretty much are kind of over the top. You have a resting bitch face terribly. Like, that's, people just know that about me. And then you're over the top enthusiastic. So that's just kind of how I am. But when it comes to people who are watching, who are building that brand, I think that is important, Phil, because you really do have to be authentic. It sounds cliche. Yes, you hear it a lot, but that's just, hopefully this reiteration, you keep hearing it like a broken record. It just helps you, like, hey, I need to be authentic. I need to be me.
Yeah. And one thing that I think think everyone needs to understand. So for those of you that don't know, have never heard of Phil or his podcast or anything, is that Phil's a practitioner. Right. So this isn't like Phil deciding he went to a conference, and it happens a lot in our industry. Like someone from an executive level or the head of production or someone goes to a conference or sees a new seminar or a YouTube video, whatever, then all of a sudden they're talking about it. The great thing about you, Phil, is that you're a practitioner. So you do a flash briefing, you do a podcast. Can you talk a little bit about your podcast and flash briefing and the content you put out there, and why you think that makes a difference for your brand and why other loan officers should be following your lead?
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. The podcast for me was an opportunity to put out content to my particular audience. Since I don't originate loans directly anymore, I manage loan officers and I coach loan officers. My audience was loan officers I was either already working with and coaching, or people that I wanted to recruit. So when I created the podcast, Mortgage Marketing Expert, I was trying to interview people within the industry. Did I say something funny?
No, you have to go and lock yourself. Keep going, Phil. They're just seeing you on video right now anyway.
Fair enough.
The laptop screensaver came on.
Yeah. Guys, there you go. Live video. That is totally a screw. Anyway, sorry, Phil. Keep going.
No, not at all. So when I created the Mortgage Marketing Expert podcast, all I was really doing was trying to create content for the audience that I wanted to reach. And I wanted to interview who's who within the industry, coaches, mentors, people that had built huge businesses, both on an origination side and on a corporate level, that would give tips that people could use to go out and build their business. And that was really what the platform was built on. I wasn't trying to monetize it. I wasn't trying to add in sponsorships. And you guys have podcasts and shows, so you understand that's the first question everybody asks us is, well, how do you monetize it? Well, we don't monetize it. What we're doing is we're trying to use it to build a brand, and then it creates opportunities down the road that you can make money from, because we are trying to build a business. But it's not about creating just a sponsorship here, an affiliate agreement there, or whatever.
Yep.
Excuse me. So as I built a podcast, I went ahead and added a flash briefing because we wanted to do a mortgage marketing minute, if you will, because most of our social media pages, specifically Instagram, does a mortgage marketing tip of the day. And that's really what the podcast, what everything with the brand is about, is just creating content that originators, that mortgage professionals, that managers can use to go out and build their business. And through that, it creates a level of credibility. It's created a ton of opportunities, both for me personally in my career and speaking engagements and connecting and networking with some of the industry elite. And that's what people need to really understand, is that's why I did what I did, was to help me build my business in my day job. It wasn't to build a side business. It was to create more credibility for me and open more doors to recruit more loan officers, to build more business. And at the end of the day, which is what really all this is about, is helping the consumer, helping someone achieve the dream of homeownership and do it in the most efficient and effective way possible, so that we can pass on those cost savings to them, so that we can provide, jobs to a lot of people and contribute to the whole. And so if people will really focus on contributing something to the whole and not just what they can pull out of it, they're going to get a heck of a lot further.
Yeah, that's, what's funny is, as you were saying all of that, in the back of my head, I'm just thinking, the one thing that absolutely kills me and again, it's not everybody, like they're starting, it's starting to be a little bit more commonplace, but just, you still have lenders that just aren't buying this whole brand, that aren't buying being active on social media, that aren't buying a lot of this stuff. And what everyone needs to understand, because look, if you don't understand the internet age that we're living in, and to where attention is very hard to come by from consumers because of the constant advertising everywhere, if you don't understand that reach and attention is paramount above anything else that you want to do when it comes to grabbing attention for consumers, then you have seriously missed the boat, and you're not getting it, and you're not going to you're definitely not going to survive, but you won't grow either. And so, that's one thing that we both love about Phil, is that he's gone out there, he's done it as someone that has been a producer, someone that is in the mortgage mortgage industry, and not only that, but managing loan officers, coaching loan officers, building regions, so that's the day job. And so every loan officer, every lender needs to understand that what Phil's doing and what he's showing you, not like he's not charging, but if you just watch what Phil does and do that, you can build a brand. That's how I came to know Phil, right? Because of his personal brand that he built. That's how I came to know Josh. Every lender, and I don't care who you are, should be helping your loan officers with their brand, right? Because at the end of the day, it is not the brand of the lender that's in front of everybody. It's that loan officer. It's their face, their voice, it's their trust and and the brand will naturally come along with you if you foster that. It's something I've always talked about if you brand local, you'll brand national, because you have to be that person that has boots on the ground. Now, I'm not saying that they don't ever talk about the lender and their branding and just totally disregard that, but I'm just saying every time that I've seen it successful is where the company fosters that, because what happens is, and I've talked about this on I swear, like you mentioned, we've been on several shows and podcasts this week, and we keep talking about it. And I'm going to keep going back to the Mortgage X podcast that we had with Kristen Meserly, where she does these focus groups with millennials. And Phil, you mentioned it about them being 40% of the buying force right now, getting into the housing, and they don't trust the big brands, but they will trust that local person that's in front of them or that local brand. They're not going to trust the big company. So if you do want to capitalize on that, it's all about reach and attention. Would you agree with that, Phil?
100%. And what people need to realize in that scope is you can't have a relationship with a brand. You can have a relationship with a person. So as people are building their personal brand, build yourself, build who you are, give people something to have a relationship with. Some of the biggest brands and companies in the world are experiencing this firsthand, because if you go back to the part of the conversation we were talking about, millennials want community more than almost any other generation. They're talking about millennials want relationships. They want relationships with people. They want relationships with each other. And so there's a lot of companies that are buying in saying, okay, there's something going on with social media. There's something going on with technology. I need to jump on that bandwagon. And they're doing it wrong. An example I use all the time is don't put open house flyers on Instagram. Don't put your mortgage vocabulary videos out there. If a mortgage company is putting a video out doing mortgage vocabulary, what they're not understanding is the people that are seeing that are following that page already know what amortization is. And if they don't know what amortization is, they probably don't care unless they're going through the mortgage process. I think you have those blog posts and have those videos out there for people to reference if they want to go look for them. But that's not the opportunity that social media presents. Social media presents an opportunity for you to be social and interact with someone that you may not have had an opportunity to do before, where we used to have to go to realtors' offices and hand out flyers and do it on a linear basis. We now have platforms that allow us to be exposed to a ton of other people and let them be exposed to us. Why? To create a relationship. And so I'll keep saying it, you can't have a relationship with a brand. So don't create a brand that's inauthentic. And we use that word almost like a punchline. Just be real, be who you are. Some people will like you, some people won't. Who cares? There's plenty of business and there's plenty of humans out there to create relationships with and do good business.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. And I think relationship is key. You've mentioned that a couple of times, Phil. It's people are not, they don't go to a brand. Like you look at some of these big companies, like people are probably thinking, well, what about, I'll mention them, Quicken. Like Quicken, they do a lot of advertising and they have millions and millions of dollars to dump into it. But even Jason and I had a conversation with some people who have, some companies who have done studies with people who have gone to Quicken. And the only reason they went to Quicken because it just kept showing up. Like, did they have a great experience? No. Like you look at Quicken's reviews and they're terrible. Like people don't have a good experience with them. They don't have that relationship. Literally just a number. You're just getting processed through. The difference with somebody, a personal relationship that you're talking about, Phil, you are somebody like you mean somebody. And Jason mentioned this on our last podcast, is a lot of loan officers, a lot of people in our industry right now are just looking at it transactionally. They're looking at it as a, hey, I want a paycheck. I'm going to get, X amount on this deal. So I want to close it, get it done and move on. You have to look at it as a long-term relationship, because that $5,000 could turn into $150,000 from the friends, the family, the relationship that you build with those people. So make sure that it's not just a transaction. If you're doing that, you are just another another big box. Like you're another big box lender that's just, selling the transaction, pushing them through as quick as you possibly can. So that cannot be your focus. And and I know some people are like, I've heard this, but are you actually doing it? Like
keep hearing it until you do it.
Literally, somebody was saying, well, we keep hearing the same stuff. And then we asked them like, well, are you doing it? And they're like, and I'm like, well, that's it. Like, if you keep hearing, but you're not then you're going to keep hearing it until you actually start acting upon this stuff and implementing and executing within your business. You're going to keep hearing the same stuff.
Yep.
So it's all about execution.
So, Phil, let's talk about Mastermind. So we're all going to be there next week. Josh and I are honored to be able to speak on stage on day 2 and partnering up with our good friend, our collective friend, Barry Habib and MBS Highway. So we're looking forward to that. We're also looking forward to hanging out with the Mason Mac crew at the happy hour. Can you give us a little bit of information on that?
For sure. On Wednesday night from 5 to 7 after the session is over there at Mastermind, we're going to do a happy hour mixer from, like I said, 5 to 7 at the Unknown Bar, a.k.a. the Shark Bar right there in the middle of the lobby. And so we're taking a couple hours just to give people an opportunity to come and network and hear and talk to you guys, to some other, speakers that are going to be at the event. Learn about what Mason-McDuffie is going to be doing and just kind of get to know each other. It's a real informal thing. We're just going to take some time to get to know some folks and excited about, inviting a ton of people to come check it out. So if you want to register for that, you can go to masonmacmixer.com. And we'll put that in the comments as well for people to go. It's going to be a great time. We do have a limit to how many people we can have there. They're only giving us a section. So if you're interested in that, please definitely check it out and come hang out with us.
Awesome. And then what do you, because I know this isn't your first mastermind, what do you like most about the Mortgage Mastermind event?
Man, there's a lot of things I do. One of the things that I like is that it brings the collective who's who within the industry together. Most people come to the event, get a chance to network with folks, see people that they are only exposed to online, maybe see some coaches that they've not had to have access to before. There's always great speakers. I will give them credit. They've always put together a great lineup of speakers, and that's no exception, this year. And so it's an opportunity for people to network with each other, network with other people in the industry, get to talk to speakers and hear amazing content. I always take pages of notes away from the event. And so, I don't have any direct ties or indirect ties to Mastermind. I'm not promoting the event to, sell tickets or make money or anything like that, but it is a definite event that people can go and get information. But Josh, to your point, it doesn't matter how much information you take away from an event or a social media post or a conference, unless you go and implement it in your business, it's not going to do you any good.
100% agree. And that's just it. Jason and I are actually going to be talking about that tomorrow on Shred Live, more about Mastermind and implementing and taking these ideas that you hear and actually implementing. So we're going to be talking a lot more. Make sure you tune in tomorrow to watch Shred Live, because we're going to be talking a lot more about that. But Phil, it's been an incredible time hanging out with you. Again, we posted the link below for the Mason Mac Mixer. If you're coming down to Mastermind, actually right now, if you're watching us live and you're coming to Mastermind, comment #Mastermind. And make sure you get together with the three of us. We'd love to do a video with you. Love to help you continue to build your brand, everything that we're talking about. Phil is one of those guys who has truly dedicated his life. Like he mentioned, he's no longer a producing loan officer, but he's dedicated his life to helping loan officers, helping the mortgage community really grow their business. And Mason Mac is just where he's decided to plant his feet and continue to do what he's doing and what he loves to do. So Phil, it's been an honor and a pleasure, my friend. Looking forward to connecting with you down at Mastermind. It's going to be a lot of fun. So
man, I'm excited. Appreciate you guys having me on. It's always a lot of fun when we get together and shoot the breeze and talk the industry. So excited to see you guys at Mastermind. And then again, the week after at the HousingWire Engage Marketing Summit. It's another great time, another great event. So looking forward to hanging out with you guys.
Dude, it's going to be a lot of fun. None of us bashed Dustin Brome during this entire thing.
No, I was trying to avoid it, but I mean, now that you brought it up, Dustin's terrible.
We all know a good friend, Dustin Brome, who's again involved with us in the industry syndicate. Give a shout out to our good friend Dustin. But thank you everybody for joining us today. People jumping on Renato Roddick, Paul Kimball, everybody who's jumping on Bill Stevens, everybody who's commented and been part of the show. Make sure you tune in tomorrow for the Shred live with me and Jason as we talk about Mastermind in Las Vegas next week. Going to be a ton of fun. So Phil Treadwell, thanks so much again. Appreciate you guys. As always, show up, hustle, repeat every day. We'll see you guys soon.